Hello, I'm Simon K. Jones and you're listening to the latest chapter of Tales from the Triverse, my ongoing weekly sci-fi fantasy crime fiction thing. And today's chapter is Gods and Robots, Part 9. Above Brulia, Palinor, 3208, Bright Sun. Away from the city and the huge burning sword that remained embedded in the streets, the megaship probably better, and the god Unihex grappled wordlessly as they moved skywards. Encased in a writhing shell of mechanical forms, Unihex tried to burn, to freeze, to electrify, but nothing could dislodge them. Molecular disassembly and gravitational pulses were neutered by the megaship's increasingly confident wielding of magical forces. There would be a solution, one would present itself forthwith. There was no force on Palinor that could contend with the might of Unihex, and it was inconceivable that an usurper from beyond the portals could pose a threat. He would crush the Max Earth ship into dust before the day was out. What are you? The question was not spoken but projected, or transmitted. The alien ship was communicating. The air was cooling as they lifted away from the city, from the sun-burnt mazes of Brulia. Unihex had assumed that the ship was intending to drive him down into the ground, to use his body to obliterate what remained of the city. He would not allow it, though now he wondered if there was another play. The voice came again. You are clearly not a god, despite appearances. There is no evidence to support the existence of God, or gods. Deities in theology are human constructs. That is as true here as it is on Max Earth, so I ask again, what are you? I am Unihex, he responded, unable to ignore the insult. Creator of time and space, wielder of the blade of Palin. I brought light to the universe and... Okay, but you're not. Claiming to be a god does not make one a god. The pretense is illogical. I am not one of your believers. You are a technological abomination. Do not think you are worthy of my attention. The ship's gravitational grip on Unihex was firm. Still they ascended, through the gossamer clouds, the curve of the planet revealing itself on the horizon. I do not seek your approval, said the ship. I am merely curious. Clearly you did not make the universe. You cannot possibly be that old. If you were, it is highly unlikely you would present in such a classic humanoid form. The air was growing thin. Unihex could feel his lungs beginning to strain. The ship continued. Belief on Max Earth and Mid-Earth has always been predicated on the absence of proof. God can only exist in absentia. Faith as a concept defies explanation and evidence. Palinor is the only dimension in which the gods claim to exist. Do your followers have faith then, or is it something else? Unihex concentrated, channeled a physiological shockwave across the surface of his skin, a burst of energy that should dislodge most of the swarming creatures. With them gone, he would be able to control his own movement once more. That won't work, the ship transmitted. I am attuned to your dimension's frequencies. I have read all of your books, and I have observed your capabilities. You may as well stop struggling. The beauty of Palinor glowed far below, the continents and the seas, the swirling patterns of storms. Unihex wondered at the whereabouts of the other gods, and why they had not come to his aid. You're still monumentally powerful, of course, acknowledged the ship. I couldn't destroy you in a straight fight, hence I am testing another theory. But to return to the previous topic, if you are not a god, then what are you? An immortal being? A mortal creature that somehow attained god-like powers? This place often seems to defy logic, but there is a logic, and there are rules. It is unlikely that you were born this way, so it follows that you became like this at some point in the distant past. Were you given this power? Or did you take it? Perhaps you were as much of an experiment as I was. The sound of rushing air, of the wind buffeting his ears, switched to an abrupt silence, and they were moving out of the breathable atmosphere. Unihex took a deep, ragged breath. The real curiosity, said the ship, is why a being as powerful as you would confine yourself to one tiny planet. I command the entire solar system. We megaships reach as far as we wish. The sky's deep blues had given way to the black of space, the stars sparkling in a sweeping cascade. Unihex had pulled a pocket of air with him, creating a tunnel to the lower atmosphere of the planet through which he could sip oxygen. My final question, I suppose, the ship continued, is this. As a god, do you need to breathe? He felt a magical incision, and the air tunnel was severed. Unihex made a last gulping inhale as he floated weightlessly above Palinor, his enormous bulk no longer needing to be artificially lightened. He clawed at his throat, sought air where there was none, reached out in a rage towards the Max Earth vessel floating just beyond his grasp. The ship was black against space, visible only along the edge which faced the sun. Unihex looked down at his planet, which seemed so close but may as well have been in a different universe. Don't worry, the ship said. I have calculated a stable orbit for your body. You will circle the planet for hundreds of years. A new moon. I had considered sending you on your way to oblivion, but this seems kinder. He felt the small creatures releasing him, detaching from his body and returning in a swarm to the ship. And then his vision faded, his consciousness failed, and God died. An invisible pulse burst from the body of the fallen god, emanating in all directions. An old promise long broken, released from its binding. The energies flowed out, descending upon the planet as rain, touching every being, returning that which had been taken. For many it meant nothing, and they felt nothing. The humans, the Koth. To the Ain Fa came a gift, an awakening to a reality that had been forgotten millennia ago. Each of them was struck down where they stood, overwhelmed by the influx of sensations, receiving an understanding of the universe that had been denied them for generations. The surge of wild magic gripped the Ain Fa, and each would respond in their own way. Some would go mad, others would rise up against their oppressors, many would find new meaning in their lives. New paths had opened up, for the god who had betrayed their distant ancestors' trust was gone. Beneath the rubble, on a ruined street of Brulia, something stirred. First a trembling, the thin layers of dust vibrating from surfaces. Then the chunks of rock that had once been a building began to twist and turn, until a shockwave sent the debris arcing across the street. In a hole in the ground, surrounded by destruction, was the inert body of a Koth, pale from the dirt and dust caking their wings, which were extended and wrapped around like a shield. Their back was covered in cuts and bruises from the weight of the collapse. They were hunched, arms in a mock embrace, in death still determinedly protecting a tiny space below their body. From between those arms crawled a small Ain Fa girl, about 7 years old, coughing and stumbling as she tried to stand. Thanks for listening. You can leave comments, subscribe, find lots more over at simonkjones.substack.com.